Well, hello and welcome to the Pastor's Study. We come to the very last of David's life. We've been journeying slowly through David's life, and there's a lot of things that I hope that you've learned from David. I've certainly always learned a lot from David's life and his example. And the last thing that we see in David's life is who will continue after him. Because of David's sin, there's this constant struggle that's going on within his own family to rule. And yet, David needed Solomon to become the next king. And we see this come into play in 1 Kings chapter 1. In verses 28 through 31, we see this take place. David calls out, and he calls Bathsheba, and she comes before the king. And the king vowed and said, "As the Lord lives, who has redeemed my life from all distress, surely as I vow to you before the Lord God of Israel, your son Solomon will be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne in my place. And I have indeed do so this day." So David selects and appoints Solomon to be the king after he dies, to begin the reign and rule of Israel. Solomon would reign in a period of time of peace and rest, and he would be known later on in his life the wisest of all kings. And yet Solomon, for all of his wisdom, makes some horrendous mistakes, commits some horrendous acts of sin. And we're not going to move on to David's life, Solomon's life. But what I want us to see, in our lives, who do we prepare to follow after us? What are the things that we do to ensure that, if we are an employer, that there are those around us who could do our job? If we are a leader, whether it's in the church as an elder or deacon, or whether it's in the community, do we train people to do our job, to come after us? Because you know what? We will all get to the point in our lives, barring the Lord's return, that we will die. Some die young, and that is sad. Some live to be 75 years old, and that's good. 75, 80, 85. But you know what? We need to train people and be willing to give up our responsibilities so that others can do our task and we can move on. Not to give up, not to stop working, not to stop doing things, but to take on new opportunities and new tasks. Who are you preparing to follow after you and pick up where you drop off? Ponder that. Till the next time we get together in the Pastor's Study, goodbye, and may God bless.